discussion today, Sri Lanka's global image. What is your assessment of how the world sees Sri Lanka today?
When you have big challenges, you can also get big opportunities. And I think that this is how it will turn out to be also for Sri Lanka. And this is how the international community should see Sri Lanka. And this gives a lot of opportunities for Sri Lanka to strengthen economic ties and relationship with some of the most developed countries in the world.
Sri Lanka and Italy have had historic ties that still continue strong today. We talked about all of this and more with His Excellency, the Italian Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Damiano Francovigh. Stay tuned.
Some bonds give more returns. Get more security and more interest on your fixed deposits from Sri Lanka's largest finance company, LMDtv Finance.
Hello and welcome to LMDtv. The topic of conversation today is Sri Lanka's global country image. And with us, we have His Excellency, the Italian Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Damiano Francovigh. It's very nice to have you on our show, Your Excellency.
My pleasure to be with all of you.
Thank you. To move on to our discussion today, Sri Lanka's global image, especially looking at the country as it emerges from the crisis and we are slowly but surely going into growth mode. What is your assessment of how the world sees Sri Lanka today?
As you said, Sri Lanka has gone through very dire years, starting from 2019 with the Easter bombing attacks, then the COVID, and then of course the economic crisis, the default, Argalaya. This is something which has provoked a lot of pain and suffering in the population, and it has ruined the domestic economy. But as we say, when you have big challenges, you can also get big opportunities. And I think that this is how it will turn out to be also for Sri Lanka. And this is how the international community should see Sri Lanka. We know that what happened can allow Sri Lanka to discover its full potential. Starting with the geographic position, Sri Lanka is in the middle of the Indo-Pacific region, which was the driver of growth, of global growth in the last 20 years. Most of the goods which are traded every year pass next to the shores of Sri Lanka. So what will happen? Sri Lanka will start with new policies. This has already happened after concluding the MOU with the IMF, opening up its economy and linking up local industries, small and medium and big companies to global value chains. So this is a very important opportunity which is coming out from the from the crisis. The second one, I would like also to highlight that Sri Lanka is one of the not many countries which have always maintained a democratic system since the end of colonial rule. I have mentioned global value chains earlier. In these last years after COVID, there was a lot of discussion about new phenomena like friendly shoring, reshoring or nearly shoring. So this gives a lot of opportunities for Sri Lanka to strengthen its economic ties and relationship with some of the most developed countries in the world.
Talking of strengthening ties, if we go on to talk about Sri Lanka and Italy, I think the two countries have had historic ties from the time of Emperor Claudius, from what we read in history, but most recently when in 1951 the Sri Lankan embassy was established in Italy. looking at the entire history and everything that the two countries have enjoyed, how do you think the two nations can really leverage on the ties that we have?
Thank you very much for mentioning the historical record. So this means that Italy and Sri Lanka have a very long history of friendship in common. But it's not just what happened in the past. We have also a current very strong and friendly relationship. This is based on, I would say, two main assets. The first one is the Sri Lankan community living in Italy. It's, according to the statistics between 100,000 and 120,000 living regularly in Italy. If we were to add also the number of those who are illegally resident in Italy, we could reach up to 200,000. These people, through their work in my country, of course, they help the growth of the Italian economy. At the same time, it's a community which maintains strong roots in the Sri Lankan economy. They also boost the Italian economy, the Sri Lankan economy, through establishing direct business networks between the two countries. And then we have the second asset, which is the community of Italian investors who have come to this country. It's not a big community, it's around 15 investments we have here, but very good in quality. The biggest of them being Calcedonia, it's an employer employing more than 16,000 people. So these are the two assets that we have in common, and starting from these two assets, we'll try to build more and more initiatives together.
People and investments. I want to talk about both, but I want to first talk about investments, Your Excellency. How do you think the Italian investors are looking at Sri Lanka? What is their perspective of the country right now?
Sri Lanka, we have mentioned that before. It's the country coming out from a very difficult period. Now it's, I think, central, trying to open up the economy. Open up the economy means issuing and then implementing laws, leveling the playing field between local and foreign investors, between private and public entities, making circulation of capitals easier. These are the kind of points that must be built up for having more Italian, I would say foreign investors in the country. This is a point which can be built upon, and we will do also in the future.
Perfect. And looking at investments in general, from where you're standing, what are the opportunities you see and what are the challenges that would hinder those opportunities being realized?
The good point, the positive points are the one I was mentioning earlier. The country is opening up. This brings always important opportunities. Mm-hmm. We already have a good trade balance between Italy and Sri Lanka. This is mainly due also to the Italian investments who are already operating here. I'd like to recall that in 2023, Italy was globally the fourth best customer of Sri Lanka, almost 6% of the total, more than 800 million euros in total bilateral trade, with a very big surplus for Sri Lanka, around almost 400 million euros. Mm-hmm. While strengthening the opportunities for foreign investors here, you'll have, of course, also Italian investors. One point which is important to remember also at this stage is that after issuing the laws, after opening up the economy, it's important also to correctly implement those laws. We had cases in the past where Italian investors had judicial cases in local courts which did not end in due time. These kind of examples can make more difficult to achieve the tasks that we have.
Let's hope that the future will be a little bit more smoother. Talking of opportunities, Your Excellency, tourism is being discussed. We read in the papers that Italy was also looking at Colombo as a direct port in terms of air and sea travel as well, so that we can improve tourism both ways to both countries. What are your views on this, and what insights can you share?
Yes, for sure. Having direct airplane connections is one of the main factors to increase the number of tourists between two countries. What we are seeing currently is that we have a larger number of tourists coming to Sri Lanka after a few difficult years. In the first 2 months of 2024, the number of Italians coming here to discover this magnificent island has more than doubled, which is a very good sign. But we know that potential is much higher, because in neighboring Maldives, the number of Italian tourists visiting every year, the country is maybe fivefold what it's here. So we have a big potential. Of course, in market economies is always a decision by the companies based on the market condition, what to do. Currently, what we have in Italy, our former Alitalia, now called Ita Airways, they are very focused on a merge they have with Lufthansa. So maybe at the end of this process, it will be possible for them to concentrate on new targets in the region. We have also another smaller companies called NEOS. They are already operating to Male. In the past, the end of the second half of 2022, they had also opened a route here to Colombo through Maldives, and we hope that they'll do the same also in the future. But of course, as I said before, depending on the conditions of the market. Of
course. And of course, talking about Sri Lankans visiting Italy on holiday, how are the numbers looking in that aspect?
What we can say is that we had last year, 2023, a big increase in the numbers of Sri Lankans visiting or traveling to Italy. We issued more than 11,000 visas. Out of that number, most of them are not visas for tourism or for business, mostly are for working visas or family reunion visas. These numbers are high, and of course they depend on the factor I mentioned earlier, so the thriving Sri Lankan community living in my country. It's a very important point to mention. The embassy my embassy here in Colombo has had in the past, because it was understaffed, a problem in processing all visa applications in due time. That's not the case anymore. I would suggest every Sri Lankan willing to go into my country for working reasons or for tourism reasons to apply with no hesitation the outsourcer VFS for submitting this application. There will be no delay, and all visa applications will be processed in due time. I would also recommend them to do that without passing through brokers or other middlemen. This will not help the application process. It will make things more difficult for them. And if they want to migrate illegally or to reach illegally Italy, we will for sure discover them, and they will not be able to get to their target.
True. It's time to take a short break, but we'll soon be back to talk more about Sri Lanka and Italy.
Display your brand message on digital screens at prime locations. The largest digital advertising network in Sri Lanka. Emerging Media.
You're mobile, and so are we.
Gets me going.
Grab the Lite 87 app at the Apple App Store or Google Play now.
87.8 and 87.6 island-wide. Lite 87.
Welcome back to the show. We're in conversation with His Excellency, the Italian Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Damiano Francovigh. It's really good to see talent moving, to and fro. But of course, Sri Lanka is having a little bit of a challenge due to the massive brain drain that is happening, especially after the crisis. How do you think the country should balance this? Because we can't stop people from going. And
sure. Well, this is something which is, of course, affecting very much the economy. Of course, when you have a number of workers going out to the foreign, this can be detrimental for growth because you are losing one of the most important assets for the economy, which is manpower. I think that we should consider the skilled workers and the unskilled workers. If you look at the, in general terms, unskilled workers moving to other countries, this will help balance the employment market, because you'll have less unemployment in the country, given the fact that there will be less people trying to look for a job in the country. On the other hand, people working abroad, through their remittances, they will have the economy, the local economy, the economy of the sending country. I would like to mention in that regard that if we consider 4 years between 2020 and 2024, the total amount of remittances coming from Italy to Sri Lanka was around 1.2 billion euros, which is quite a large amount of money. So this is a positive effect. When you have people working abroad, of course, you have also another effect, which is the establishment of a business network between the two countries, which is what I referred also to in your earlier question. And this is for the unskilled workers. For the skilled workers, of course, this could be what we were referring to with the brain drain. And that's true to some extent. But I'll tell you also that there were some studies regarding other countries in the region, in Asia, I think it was the Philippines, where some specific sector like nurses, they had a drain of nurses going abroad for work. And then it came what it's called the emulation effect. Seeing that so many could find good jobs abroad, there was a higher number willing to invest in their education to find better employment opportunities. So what happened in the end is that this drain of nurses in the Philippines led to a higher number of graduated in nursing in the Philippines, with the compensation also for the domestic market. So it is true that it has negative effects that might, at the end of the day, be not so negative as one might think.
That's a very optimistic way of looking at it. Thank you, Excellency. In one of your previous answers, you spoke of the amount of Sri Lankans living in Italy across the years, legally and of course illegally as well. In recent times, we've been seeing in the papers, that there are certain issues for them. There are, various issues in terms of regulations and in terms of, again, illegal migration as well. How can we mitigate these issues?
The point is that when you have somebody legally migrating to a country, then it will be possible for him or her to be clearly well inserted in the local job market. Yeah. They will be benefiting of the Italian healthcare system, which is totally for free. They will sign proper job contracts, getting full salary. And of course, they will be in a position also to getting some benefits in case they lose their job due to the Italian welfare system. The bad situation might arise when we refer to people who illegally migrate to Italy, which means somebody who reaches the country with no visa or overstaying their visas. This means that if they find a job, will not be a regular job, so the pay will be much lower. They can't actually have a proper health assistance. And of course, they should also avoid to find any policemen during their life in Italy, which is not so easy because police is quite present in all the roads and streets in Italy. So the real difference is if you migrate legally or illegally. It's very important that since the very first step, which is getting your visa, which you need to travel to another country, you start following the legal way. No other means will allow you to get the better experience of your life abroad.
Of course. Your Excellency, we are nearing the end of our conversation, and I want to ask you something regarding doing the right thing, like you were saying. Civic mindedness is a topic that we talk a lot at LMD. When we look at future trade relationships, investments, people as well as businesses, where do you think civic mindedness should stand?
I heard of your campaign. I fully support it. It's based on supporting a few values like honesty, professionalism, paying all due taxes, these kind of things. It's not just important on a perspective of ethics. It's something which is very consistent because it is very much related to what I was talking about earlier when I discussed about, for instance, investment. So upholding those values will improve the business climate. It will make easier for foreign investors and also domestic investors to put their money in starting new businesses. What matters here is that through supporting this principle, you, as a matter of fact, you support the economy of Sri Lanka. And it is very important as a kind of call it a collateral way to support the growth of the country and making easier for Sri Lanka to live from the difficult times that it has passed in the last few years.
Yes. We've been talking about the ties between our two nations and of course on Sri Lanka regaining its place and coming out of the crisis. As my final question to you, Your Excellency, what would be your concluding thoughts for today?
I would like for all your spectators, all the people who get in touch with this interview, to look at my country, Italy, to look at the country as a very friendly country, having a high consideration of this island nation. All those Italians who came to Sri Lanka left the country with the impression of being in a small paradise. And on the other hand, so many Sri Lankans have left Sri Lanka to Italy since the 70s of last century to find better conditions of work, and sometimes then coming back and sometimes remaining in Italy. So I'd like that everybody continue to maintain having this very good thought and feeling about Italy, and this is referred both to Sri Lankans and to those Italians living here in Sri Lanka who might come across this interview.
Thank you. We've been in conversation with His Excellency, the Italian Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Damiano Francovigh. It was very nice to have you on our show. Thank you very much.
It was my pleasure. Thank you very much for visiting us.
And to all our viewers, thank you very much for joining us. Until next time, take care.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for watching and stay safe.